Are racing sims getting easier? Is a question that we've been asked, and we're about to answer it in this video. Welcome back to the Gamer Muscle YouTube channel. Now, it's a simple fact of the matter that most people play driving simulators not to simulate driving, but to be smacked around the face with a wet sardine, feel miserable, fiddle with settings, have the computer melt, spend money fixing their computer, and then just slump in the corner of the room crying. Because of this, any mention that driving simulators might be getting easier causes incalculable stress, depression, and people lose the will to live. Well, fire up the cremation ovens, we're about to fill the morgue with bodies of thousands of sim racers, because, unfortunately, it is indeed the case, driving simulators have gotten easier, progressively easier, over time. And I'm going to explain why, because it just said easier and harder without any context is utterly meaningless, which is normally what happens when this conversation, is this easy, is it hard, is it a sim? When this conversation comes up, you know, there's no context to it, so it's all pointless. But I'm going to provide context here. Let's lather you in buttery context. And I'd say the most noticeable aspect of driving simulators, aside from the fact that you can just murder someone and get away with it, that has gotten easier over time, is the nature of the tyre models and the underlying handling of the vehicles. If you look at all the major sims on the market now, Racing Experience, rFactor 2, even iRacing, which is pretty unforgiving in this regard, Assetto Corsa and others, you generally find, I just said others there because I couldn't think of the names off the top of my head, others, in general, you tend to find that the direction that sims have gone in is that you have more controllable slip, more progressive grip loss, and you find vehicles less getting into that state where they just feel like they've got grip, oh no, we're now dead. Which ultimately makes it easier to keep a car pointing forwards and makes it easier to complete laps without having an outright spin or situation that causes you to crash into other people or just completely game over your race. Don't worry though, it's still very easy to completely game over your race, lose control and make yourself look like an idiot. I do it on a regular basis. But on average and on balance across all the simulators, it seems to be that it's gotten easier or it's more progressive at a basic core level of handling cars. And I think this is because, A, that's actually more realistic. Real world cars, rubber on tarmac is actually quite pliable, springy, and progressive in how it responds to what's going on. It's not a sort of binary situation. It's not concrete blocks on tarmac. It's rubber on tarmac, and rubber, you know, is quite rubbery. And B, developers have spent an insane amount of time hammering out the math, working out ways to actually capture this real-world nature of tyres and implement it into their simulators. It's taken multiple versions of games, Project Cars 1 to 2, iRacing 1983 to 2018, Race Room, I don't know how to use this, what is this microtransaction nonsense, to actually Race Room's pretty good now version, Netcar Pro to Assetto Corsa, and rFactor 1 to rFactor. Let's make a tyre model that's insane, so insane that modders won't understand it. Let's not develop it for a long time. Let's actually get another developer to fix the game, and eventually we'll be there, rFactor 2. But it's not just the underlying handling and tyre models that's gotten better, progressively better over time, and hence easier over time to actually drive these cars in simulators, but we've also seen massive, ginormous, humongous, you might say, improvements to equipment. And I'm not just talking about ridiculous, spent too much money on your hobby direct drive wheels and crazy load cell pedals or crazy pro load cell pedals. At a basic level, wheels like the G29 and the T300 are pretty easy to get a hold of, and I can tell you, when the G25 first came out, it was sort of it was a revelation. It was like the Lord had touched me with his extended finger, and from that touch I understood the importance and power of good concise force feedback with minimal internal dampening from badly configured or cheap belts and cogs and what have you. Though obviously the G2025 and G29 and G920, which is its successor, have cogs and the T300 has belts in it. But the point is, those wheels at the lower end of the market, granted that it's not the bottom end, but the lower end of the market are absolutely fantastic, give you really good precise control, tell you what's going on, and you can drive really well from them. We also have so many more options, and the price of wheels like the T300 have come down drastically, making what I would consider the sort of ideal simulation solution more accessible and more available, which in turn, as I say, makes playing driving simulators easier. The hardware that you use, the steering wheel and the pedals especially, really do impact how difficult it is to drive and how difficult it is to drive consistently. Granted, if you're an alien, you could be given a pickle plugged into a USB port and you would be Greg or Hutu. That's just aliens, they don't make any sense. But for those of us that aren't particularly good at driving simulators and a little bit thick, it's nice to have accessibility to equipment that doesn't require you to mortgage your house. Those of you that do want to mortgage your house, though, it has to be said, using a direct drive wheel, again, makes driving simulators way easier than if you're playing with lower level force feedback wheels. Specifically, the fast rotation speed that's found in direct drive wheels enables the vehicles in-game to self-align and correct to absurd levels, in fact actually artificially correct themselves more so than they would do in reality. But you also just get a degree of force feedback and information from the simulator that if you don't run the direct drive wheel at maximum strength, you can use to better inform you, to learn what you're doing, become more consistent and more easily drive and feel what's going on in the game. Across the whole spectrum, the point is, of force feedback, steering wheel, input device equipment, things have gotten better, which has made driving simulators easier. Even, we're not done yet, even the Xbox One controller, which is, as you know, a gamepad, even with gamepads, the haptic feedback, the rumble on the accelerator and the brake inform players as to if they're pulling the accelerator or brake too much or turning too hard and what's going on with the car in gateway drugs like Forza, which of course isn't a simulator, it's essentially Mario Kart, but we'll pretend it's a simulator because it does get people hooked on the hobby, wasting their lives. So it's fantastic. Good job, Turn 10. Please make sure your next Forza is actually a good game, but good job with the input device and the Xbox One controller integration. I think another aspect of simulators that's gotten easier, which can't really be understated, well it could be, but I'm not going to understate it, I'm going to overstate it, is just how things are much more transparent now, in that if you've got a problem, you can find so many YouTube videos, live streamers and communities where you can get help to see a doctor, but you can get help to find out what's going wrong with your simulator, how to set up your equipment properly, and just interact with people that vaguely know what they're talking about. And that's really established now. Whereas I remember back in the day when I was a wee laddo, I kind of went across 3 accents there, but I remember with rFactor 1, you literally had to have a PhD in rFactoritis to understand how to edit ini files, how to get specific mods to work, make sure your force feedback works with each specific car. Granted, some games still do require this kind of fiddling, but you would have to just trundle through obscure forum, which you sometimes have to register for to get the information you want, find specific people that happen to know or happen to use the equipment you've got, and it was just a right pain in the arse. As I say, this hasn't completely disappeared, but for the most part, out of the box, driving simulators on the whole tend to just be much better and require much less fiddling initially, with wheel support, hardware support and everything else, for the most part, just working. But then, as I say, you can just type something in Google and you'll get a YouTube video with someone showing you exactly what you need to do, even if it's something hyper niche. Like, for example, I'm going to upgrade the software from Emos, which is the driver on my direct drive wheel, to the new SimuCube software. There's already, despite only 1.5 people owning a direct drive wheel, there's already someone that's videoed the full installation process. Back in the day, that was not something that was going to happen. You know, you would have to follow instructions that were written down, probably written in the wrong language, and probably written in a way that actually means it doesn't work because they've missed a vital step out. But even outside of the hardware and configuring the simulators, stuff like understanding what understeer is, oversteer, gear ratios, what you need to do in a various simulator to get the basic most out of it, is all covered in videos. It's all there in communities that you can just join, like the Gamer Discord, Gamer Muscle Discord, which there's a link in the video description. If you click that, you can talk to lots of people there. Our community is actually burdened, as I always say, with too many women, so if any guys want to join up, feel free to come in the chat room there. It'd be really nice to balance things out a little bit. But, you know, you've got Sim Racing Paddock, you've got Inside Sim Racing, you've got the Sim Pit. You know, there's all these sites with various forums where you can just get your information, talk to people that vaguely know, as I say, what they're talking about. And, of course, there's godlike YouTubers like Gamer Muscle Videos. What a channel. Absolutely amazing. What a service to the sim racing culture. And lastly, the last aspect that I think is the most noticeable aspect that's got easier with driving simulators is that it's much easier these days to find good quality racing with people, be it sim racing system, iRacing. Let's have separate subscriber and content fees. Why are we still doing that? It's 2018. Come on, iRacing. You've got GT Sport, and then you've now on the horizon got Assetto Corsa Competizione and potentially GTR 3 with a ranking system. And Project Cars 2, though it's a little bit half-assed, does have a ranking type system in it that, if you've got enough community behind you, does help make the racing better quality. So it's starting to become the norm, and there are multiple options where you don't necessarily have to be part of a league or something that's very organised. You can buy a major simulator and you can get good quality racing with it. Whereas in the past, it was a total and utter ball ache to sign up to things and get going with moderately good online racing, which in turn actually made it much more intimidating, because you wouldn't know if you were driving wrong or what you need to do to improve. You wouldn't be put amongst people that are interested in actually keeping a car on a track, and you wouldn't necessarily be put amongst people with the same skill as you. Even in cases where you find good servers, back in the day I used to play a lot of Live for Speed, and there were often good servers on that, it would still be very challenging to get A, clean racing, but B, put against people that happen to be a similar skill level to you, to allow you to develop racecraft. Because if you're just driving around by yourself somewhat aimlessly, you're not going to develop racecraft, and it's going to be very frustrating and, quite frankly, hard to understand what you're doing right or wrong. Whereas if you've got people actually at your skill level that you're driving with, you can chip away at improving yourself whilst also having fun, seeing what works and what doesn't work. And I'd say it's only now in 2018 that this is starting to be the sort of norm across all driving simulators. So yes, all in all, in total, in completion, racing simulators are getting easier. They have gotten easier from the handling, the physics, the packaging, the totality, the access of information, the force feedback, the equipment, just about everything has gotten easier with driving simulators. I think what might be a little bit harder in the future is as we get more complexity in driving simulators, and there might be some more nuanced aspects to them, maybe that will make some things harder. But the key things, the crucial parts that we've covered, I think have got easier, and I think it is for the better. And I think what it will do is it will make driving simulators more popular over time. And I think as a hobby, it has actually grown. I think more people have come to it. We've gained more subscribers, miraculously. As I say, burdened by gorgeous women. Please, guys, subscribe to the channel. I can't take just the sheer number of 20-year-old women that are subscribing and harassing me. I just can't take it. So, guys, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, advertisement complete. And I didn't mention it in this video, but of course, I personally feel that virtual reality has made driving simulators massively easier to drive. You can understand what's going on with the cars more clearly, and we are starting to get more driving simulators supporting VR as a default thing, but I think that's slightly on the cusp before that is 100% the norm. But I think that's another big impactful thing. I've got tons of videos on the channel about VR, so I didn't really want to bring it up too much in this video, but definitely check out those other videos if you're interested to know how VR impacts driving. And well, there's not really that much more to say other than I have gotten a cup of tea. We are drinking tea. We're going to be streaming this evening as usual. If you, well, it depends when you're watching this video. Maybe we're not when you're watching this video, but as of the date of this video, we're going to be streaming. The end. Congratulations, you win the award of procrastination. I'll see you very soon indeed. Slowly fade to black through lack of oxygen. Don't hold your breath whilst racing, guys.